Hi everyone, and welcome to week 3 of social studies. This week in our lesson, I am going to focus on short answer questions and the best way to answer them. Because something that I noticed this week when I was marking some of your work from the previous 2 weeks is that some of you aren't answering in full sentences or including the question in your answer, which you need to do in order to get full marks in the future. So something that I'm going to go over today is how to use stem sentences, okay? So something that we're going to talk about is wrap. So when we wrap, we restate the question in your answer. So we're going to take a better look at that in a few minutes. Answer all parts of the question. So as you look at questions and as you move through the course, you're going to notice that some parts or some questions have multiple parts to them, and you need to make sure you're answering all of the parts in order to get the full marks for that question. And in some instances, you're going to have to prove it. You're going to have to support your answer with evidence from the text. So it might ask you for your opinion, and then you might have to restate something that you read in the text that's given you that opinion. So let's take a look at this week's short answer questions for grade 8. So as you can see here, I've highlighted some things. So this is the grade 8 social studies introduction activity. So in each grade, you have very similar questions relating to your content, but it's the same layout. You have questions from the readings that you're supposed to be answering. So as you can see here, I've got a few examples. So we're going to look at number 11 first, and let's see. It says, what are 2 things that can affect your worldview? See page 6 of your textbook, and that's worth 2 marks. So you'll see in red that I have an answer that just says family and friends. Well, it doesn't even say and, it just says family, friends. So that is a no. That's not a good answer for a short answer question because it doesn't restate and it doesn't fully answer. Family and friends are pretty close together if we're talking about groups that we belong to. So family and friends probably both have the same influences on you. So a good answer to this question would be 2 things that affect my worldview are where I am from and what groups I belong to. So, as you can see, there's a big difference between those 2 answers. So I know some of you have done the one-word answers, but that's not going to work for the rest of the year. We need to start using full sentences. Now let's look at question number 12. What are some examples of the different types of groups that a Canadian citizen can belong? So as you can see, this is worth 3 marks. So if something is worth 3 marks, you should probably have 3 points. So just saying Albertan and Francophone isn't going to get you full marks. That'll get you 2 marks if I'm feeling generous because it's not even in a full sentence. So let's take a look at what a good answer for this question would look like. Canadian citizens can belong to many groups. Some of these groups are First Nations, Francophone, or multicultural, such as Ukrainian, Sikh, or Chinese. And the bad answer for this question is Albertan, Francophone, British. It doesn't really give me a full answer, and I'll talk a little bit later about why it's so important to use the question and the answer. But it's just that's not full marks. It doesn't really look like you're putting a lot of effort in if you just give me a small list like that. And then let's look at number 13, define society. So society is defined as a group of people linked by common activities or interests in a shared location, or a bad answer would be a group of people. I would probably give that a 0 because it doesn't give me enough information about geography or the groups of people that you need to belong to. So I hope that these examples give you a good indication of what you should be doing and what you shouldn't be doing. It's so important that you're restating the question in your answer and that you're answering all parts of the question. So please just remember, if something is worth 4 marks. That means you need to give 4 points, okay? Here are some tips for answering short answer questions. Make sure that you're including the question in your answer. That's what it means to turn it around, is just to restate it. Number 2, be sure to answer every part of the question. And a way that you can do this is to check off each part of the question as you go. So if it's a multi-part question, putting a check mark after each part of the question to make sure you've got it. Get your answers from the textbook if you need to. Maybe don't copy them right out of the text, restate them in your own words, but a lot of the time the answers are in the textbook, so you don't need to be making up your own. Make sure that it's clear what part of the question you're answering. Sometimes teachers who are very tired get confused, so this helps me out quite a bit. For example, if you have a question about medieval serfs and how they feel about being under the control of the nobility, if you just put, they think it really sucks, I have no idea what question you're talking about. I don't know what group of people you're talking about. So it's important to phrase it in a way that says the serfs were very unhappy because they did not like being underneath the control of the nobility. And that will give me a really good starting place to give you a good mark. And then for a multi-part question, answer it in the order that it's asked. So this relates back to number 2. If it's a question that has a lot of pieces to it, make sure you're answering them in order. So if it says, first, tell me the 3 parts of medieval society. Second, define them. Third, which piece would you want to be, or which part of society would you want to be a part of? Answer it in that order. Rather than starting out which society you'd want to be a part of, naming the 3, and then defining them. It just makes sense to keep things in order. So that's it. That's all. Hopefully in the next few weeks I'll see some really great short answer questions. Remember, it's expected that you're answering in full sentences. I can't wait to read what you have to give me.